It's a beautiful day, the sun is shining, and unfortunately, I gotta bring dark days to my channel because this Epstein stuff is not light content, but it's important content because if people are gonna talk about the Epstein files, they have to understand what that even means. Most folks think it's like one giant folder locked in some federal vault with every answer we want to know. No, it's not. How this works, the Epstein files aren't one document, they're hundreds of documents spread across federal criminal cases, uh, FBI investigations, civil lawsuits, state cases, international cases, private settlements, financial audits, flight logs, sealed testimony, and evidence from every jurisdiction that don't even share information. It's not one box of papers, it's a network of paperwork. And every one of these institutions, FBI, federal courts, state courts, the U.S. Virgin Islands, financial regulators, they all have different priorities. They don't communicate. They don't coordinate. They don't merge their information. They're not the Avengers assembling information for our entertainment. That's why things have moved slowly. It's been 20 years. You even have a case where J.P. Morgan Chase is being sued by the U.S. Virgin Islands for enabling Epstein's activities. That's just an example of how big we're talking, whole countries. Think about the scale of that. This is way bigger than individual victims and names on flight logs. God bless the victims, by the way. I hope they get every dollar, every ounce of justice. I want Epstein's entire estate drained to zero. Burn it down financially, please. It was built on evil. But the government, the federal agencies, plural, they're not primarily moving for moral reasons. They move for money, manpower, political costs, and what they consider a priority. Even the agencies that look like they're doing humanitarian work, the budget always comes first. If something takes 50 people, 6 months, $1 million to process, the truth gets put on a waiting list. And this case stretches across state lines, country lines, private islands, private jets, foreign banks, political influence, celebrities, billionaires. You're not involved solving that in, well, 20 years, but it's been a year since people really been asking for these files. So maybe like the big charge, you know. The case involves minors. I know no one wants to say that out loud because it's the most terrible thing about this. It's not about protecting these banks and government agencies. It's about protecting the children who were taken, the high schoolers, middle schoolers that were taken to these places. Once children become involved, the names get redacted, documents get sealed, testimony gets protected, whole files become untouchable. People scream for transparency, but if you release everything unredacted, victims get exposed, re-traumatized, doxxed, and thrown in the public arena. That's not justice. But there's another reason everything stays sealed. If even one name drops, one, the entire internet turns into a vigilante mob. People want the smoking gun on Trump. People want the smoking gun on Clinton. It goes for both sides, really. People want the smoking gun on every billionaire, actor, senator, CEO, and rapper who ever stood in the same room as this guy. But the truth is, most people on those flight logs were not involved in anything criminal. I compare it to the Diddy situation. Yes, this dude threw huge parties, but are everyone complicit in his nonsense? Guilt by proximity is one of the lowest forms of logic, but in the internet era, that's all you need, the gasoline you need to start a fire. And the news networks don't help. They doctor footage, BBC. They exaggerate narratives. They take a grain of truth and inflate it into a season-long drama, not because they care, but because it sells. That's why even legitimate evidence get buried under entertainment value. So what happens if we dump all the Epstein documents online tomorrow. Not justice, chaos, false accusations, misinterpretation, weaponized misinformation, people destroying each other for likes, half the world misreading a redaction and calling it proof. Instead of justice, you get a circus. Instead of truth, you get content. Instead of accountability, you get a culture war. And none of that helps the victims. None of that fixes the system that we want fixed. None of that prevents the next Epstein from happening. Probably happening right now as I'm sitting here in front of a mic talking to you folk. Not for a single reason, for all of them. Protection. So why are they secret? Protection of minors, protection of uncharged people, ongoing investigations, intelligence overlaps, fragmented jurisdictions, media manipulation concerns, public reaction, and the simple reality that institutions move slowly when cases are big, messy, and expensive. Sometimes the truth doesn't get hidden because it's sinister. Sometimes it gets hidden because the world isn't responsible enough to handle it without setting it afire. And sadly, that's where we're at right now.